Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about top 5 reasons why I've lost wholesaling deals. Alright, as you guys may know, over the past over a year, I've closed on over 40 deals. I think at this point it's like 43 or 45, somewhere in that range. But within those 45 deals, I probably had another 7 to 8 deals that I did lose, and there's some that were really close to signing a contract and maybe selling them, but they never went through. So today I'm going to disclose the top 5 reasons why I actually lost those deals. So let's get straight to it. All right, number 1, you probably can't really see it because of the light, but it's liens and back taxes, okay? Liens and back taxes are the number 1 reason why I lose deals. And this is something that happens a lot for a lot of wholesalers. And here's why this happens a lot. The reason why this happens a lot is because you're actually dealing with properties that are not on the market. They probably don't have a clear title. They have some issues. You're reaching out to people that some maybe were thinking about selling the property. Some were, some were maybe not even thinking about selling it. Some actually have issues with the property. That's why they're selling it. They could be liens and back taxes, and maybe seller knows about them. They'll tell you ahead of time. They're like, oh, I have some liens and taxes. So let's have an offer appropriately based on that. So sometimes, they're willing to pay the liens and back taxes from their proceedings. Sometimes you have to pay that. One way or another, those liens needs to be taken care of. So somebody has to take care of them. And a lot of times, the longer the seller waits, which you can use to your own advantage and tell them that, and the more the taxes and the liens get, the higher chances, first, they're not going to profit anything from the deal. So the earlier they sell, the better it is, because those liens and taxes, they accumulate over time. And second of all, the county can actually take the property away if you don't pay the taxes. The state or the county or the city, they will take the property away. And after they take the property away, they're just going to sell it on the tax sale. It's called tax deed sales. But so the seller is not going to profit anything. So they're just going to lose their property. So you tell them that, hey, if you have liens and back taxes, let's go with this deal quick. Let's get this done if it's not too much. And sometimes they don't know their liens and back taxes. And that's even worse, to be honest with you, because when they come up, then you have to figure out who's going to pay them. A lot of times you're going to try to negotiate that the seller pays them, but the seller is like, oh, well, I wanted this, then I can't sell for that if that's the case. So, you're going to have to figure it out one way or another. Most of the time, I'm able to kind of split it between buyers and sellers. Sometimes I have to take it from my assignment fee. So you just have to play around and see what works best for that particular situation. All right, so number 2 is other wholesalers, okay? Not every wholesaler plays clean in this game. There's a lot of wholesalers that play dirty. And if they contact your seller and your seller says, hey, I'm under contract, what they can do, they're like, oh, well, how much are you contract for? And if your seller is naive enough to kind of still talk to them, and then they were going to be like, oh, I'm selling this property for $100,000, and then the other wholesaler can be like, okay, screw them, I'll buy it for $105,000, and $5,000 is a decent amount, so that enough for the seller to kind of just ghost you and go to the other wholesaler, or try to ruin the deal you have right now just so they can go with the other wholesaler. So that happens. Sometimes the other wholesaler may not even know they have it under contract. I have a funny story for this. I had a property under contract that was on one of my most biggest lists that I work on constantly. And so that happened that lead came from cold calling, and we put it under contract. During the title process, we found some title issues that we had to extend the contract for another 3 weeks or so, okay? During that time, we actually contacted the seller 2 times through our texting campaign accidentally. And during both times when we texted them, they said, yes, this property is for sale. How much is your offer? And I was thinking like, dude, you literally have a contract with us. But, they don't really care. People don't understand that how binding contracts works, especially if it's already in the escrow and you did the deposit. But, that does happen, and sometimes they do back out from the deal because of that. Number 3 is bankruptcy, okay? So bankruptcy, that kind of situation only happened to me once when the seller has active bankruptcy going on, and we were not able to purchase their property. Here's what happened. So let's say you're going through bankruptcy, all your private properties or your private possessions or whatever, if they're under your name and you go through bankruptcy, you're not able to sell them because the bank is going to take them, and there's a whole process. I'm not a legal advisor to know exactly how that works, But I know that when you're going through bankruptcy, all your properties that were under your name or whatever, you can't sell them. So the seller didn't tell me they were going through bankruptcy. They wanted $5,000 deposit, which is crazy because normally I don't do $5,000 deposit. Those are pretty high. Second of all, they wanted to close within a very quick period of time, which we're gonna do. And then everything went through, the title company did the research, and then they're like, oh, there's a bankruptcy on the seller. We can buy the property. And I'm like, man, just tell us if you're going through bankruptcy. What do you think is gonna happen? The funny part is, a month after this property didn't go through, we actually texted that same seller all over again, not on purpose, but he was on our other list. And he's like, oh yeah, I have this property for sale. And this is the property we were just talking about. And I'm like, you know, the sellers like that, they're kind of just expecting the miracle is going to happen and somebody's going to come in and miraculously able to buy their property, or they're going to trick someone into buy their property. So always be careful. Make sure never accept to do a quitclaim deed, because that will screw you over. Your investors won't do it anyway. We're going to step away really quick. What quitclaim deeds are when you purchase a property without really doing research on the title. There's two types of deeds: quitclaim and warranty deeds. Quitclaim deeds, people do it between their family members, which I still don't suggest doing because there could be issues with it. Or sometimes if you have a property under your own name, you can put it under LLC, your own LLC, quickly. I think it's only $150, $200 to do a quitclaim deed, and it's super easily to change it. And then you just do it yourself, send it to the county, and they record it, and that's done. The property's under your LLC's name. When you do a warranty deed, the title company does the research, they guarantee that the title is clear and everything like that, so they're insuring the title for you. So, and that costs more money and more time. It's called warranty deed. That is the only way that investors I've worked with and I've heard, only the way that they ever buy. That would be the only way I would ever buy a property. You know, I wouldn't go any other way. But some sellers think they're smart enough, they're gonna tell you, they're like, oh, you should buy a quitclaim deed. And you're like, no, we don't buy quitclaim deeds, we only do warranty deeds. But let's get back to this. Number 4, again, you probably can't see it, but it's disappeared. The sellers have disappeared on me before. I don't know if something happened to them, to their families, or they just, like I said, maybe other wholesalers reached out to them, they just disappeared on me. But I've had people just disappear on me, you know. Here's what I do to prevent that, my suggestion. My suggestion is to make multiple points of contact with the seller during the title process. Okay, so here's how it would work, is that you put a property in the contract, right? And you found a buyer for it. You assign it to the end buyer. After that, you take both contracts, your original purchase and sale and your assignment, you send it to the title company, right? The title company starts the process. The moment your buyer does the deposit on the contract, you go ahead and call the seller and say, hey, we did the deposit, just wanted to give you a heads up. Now we're in the process. It should take a couple weeks. We'll be in contact. Then about a week before closing, go ahead and call the title company, see if it's on track. Then go ahead and call the seller and let them know that, hey, we're on track to close. Here's the thing. Your title company, if they're a good title company, they're most likely will be in contact with the seller anyway. And that kind of helps you out, because if the title company is in contact with the seller, then it means that, you know, they're kind of being checked on during the title process. So it's good. But no matter what the title company does, you should still do your part and do multiple points of contact during that 3-4 week process of the title search and everything, and be in contact with the seller. All right, and number 5 is change their mind. This has happened to me a couple times. Is that during the title process or whatever, the seller just calls me. They're like, we changed our mind. We don't want to sell anymore. I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to sell anymore? We literally have the title process. I already paid for this and this and this. How are you gonna just change your mind? And unfortunately, that's the case. I think there's something called, I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but something called, you can clout the title. From my understanding, what that means is that, so if the seller didn't sell you the property, you can put like a lien against the property, and they have to sell it to you. They don't have any option to do with the property. So that gives you the legal rights, but it also depends on your how your contract is structured, what kind of property it is, and etc. So I wouldn't be too crazy about it, filing all that stuff right away. But you can definitely mention to the seller that, hey, I have the legal rights to buy that property. You know, we are in the binding contract, that it's a legally binding contract. So if we're gonna back out from the contract, we both need to agree with it. And you know, sometimes the seller gonna be like, oh, well, I just want to get out of it, whatever. I was like, okay, well, how's that fair to me? Because you already invested all this time, all this money, I put the deposit down. If I back out, at least you get a deposit, so you get some kind of insurance. But if you back out right now, what do I get for all the time and all the money I invested in this? And you know, sometimes they're like, okay, I guess I understand, you know. So maybe you can convince them and talk to them and explain the situation. So who knows? So always talk to sellers, and you know, and don't ever just give up when they tell you I don't want to sell the property. Talk to them and just see why and reasoning behind what they're doing in their actions. But that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and leave a comment down below if you have any other questions. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I really appreciate it. And as always, guys,